In this video, I'll be ranking the 6 solo Bach sonatas and partitas in order of difficulty. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Megan. I'm a violinist and teacher. I've been playing the violin for over 20 years. I have my bachelor's and master's degrees in violin performance, and I'm Suzuki trained. If you're enjoying my videos, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel. And if you're interested in working with me, you can check the description for a private lesson application, as well as the waitlist for my online learning program, Learn Violin Online. You just missed the enrollment period, but we will be having another enrollment period in November. So the 6 solo Bach sonatas and partitas are some of the most iconic and well-known works for the violin. These are pieces that every violinist must play, as if you are auditioning for music schools or even auditioning for orchestras, they will likely ask you to play 2 to 3 movements of them. At this point, I have played almost all of them. There's only a couple movements I haven't played. I haven't played the last movement of the B minor. I have not played the first 2 movements of the C major or the middle movement of the E major. But besides that, I've played them all, including the chaconne. There's a couple things that I think make these works difficult. First of all, they are written for solo violin. So unlike a concerto or a sonata, there's really nowhere to hide. Second, these movements, especially the ones that have a bunch of double stops, require such precise intonation. Bach, the little rebel he is, uses a lot of octaves, perfect fourths, perfect fifths, and all of these must be exactly in tune. The style must be exactly correct as well. You need to emphasize the bass notes and also use your timing to give the movements expression. So even though some of the movements look relatively simple on paper, trust me, they're not. There's a lot that goes even into the simplest of solo Bach. So with all that being said, coming in at number 6, the easiest solo Bach is going to be partita number 3 in E major. Most difficult movements of this partita are the first 2. But then the remaining movements are pretty simple. The first movement of solo Bach that I generally teach is going to be the Gigue, the last movement from the E major, because it is relatively short and simple and it's a good introduction. Now, even though this is the easiest on the list, it's by no means easy. First, I think that the key of E major is just a really hard key to play in. It's really, really easy to go sharp. The first movement of this partita is so iconic, but has some really, really tricky string crossings. And the second movement, the Lure, has some really challenging double stops. But with that being said, the Lure, the one with the double stops, is relatively short. So again, it is a good introduction into double stops in Bach and just what it takes to get all of those double stops in tune. Coming in at number 5, we have partita number 1 in B minor. Fun fact, I actually played the first 2 movements of this for my college auditions. Overall, this partita is really not too double stop heavy, which makes it on the easier side. The reason why I rank this slightly more difficult than the E major is because of the structure of this partita. Each movement also comes with a double. So when you're learning this, instead of playing 1 movement, you're essentially playing 2. Instead of playing 2 movements, you're essentially playing 4. So everything is kind of doubled. So it's more work, essentially. Coming in at number 4, we have sonata number 1 in G minor. The first movement of this is so beautiful, but very, very hard for like the timing. This movement is essentially a written out improvisation. So the rhythm can look very scary and daunting at first, and it may take some time to figure out. The second movement of this is a fugue, but it is the shortest and arguably the easiest fugue, although again, it's certainly not easy. Bach was a Baroque composer, and polyphony, which is different independent musical lines being played at the same time, was very popular during this era. So his fugues are really a culmination of that. In fugues, there is one musical line that is being passed around through different voices, and you have to be really sure that you're always bringing out that main voice, which can be really hard to do when you're playing double stops and triple stops. The Sicilian, the third movement, is so beautiful, and then the fourth movement, the Gigue, is not too terribly difficult, but the timing can get a little bit challenging. Coming in at number 3, we have Partita number 2 in D minor. So if you were just to look at the first 4 movements of this piece by itself, they would arguably be probably the easiest movements of solo Bach. The first movement, the Allemande, I know is a really popular choice for like first movements of solo Bach because like it is relatively straightforward in terms of the notes, and there's only like 2 double stops. The Courant, though, the second movement, does go very, very fast. And the Sarabande, the third movement, does have some tricky double stops. Obviously, the star of this piece is the Bach Chaconne, which is the last movement. I played this for my master's recital. Unfortunately, I don't have any video evidence of me playing it, but whatever, I'm over it. But the Chaconne one, it's just really long. It's like 12 to 17 pages, depending on the version you're using. It can be like about 15 minutes long to play. Plus, it's really easy to get turned around. I know I personally had a really hard time with memory for this piece just because there's a lot of sections that sound very similar, and if you make a wrong turn, it's very easy to go back and just make it way longer than it needed to be. But with that being said, I personally think that the fugues are harder, which is why I put this at number 3. Number 2, we have Sonata number 2 in A minor. The first movement is very similar to the first movement of Sonata number 1. It is very slow, very lyrical. We have those written out ornamentations that have some tricky rhythms. But then the second movement is the fugue. And for me personally, the fugues, so incredibly difficult. I honestly had to like pretty much give up playing this fugue. I wouldn't say I ever truly finished it. Like I played it, but I never really finished it, if you know what I mean. The third movement of this piece, I think, is my all-time favorite movement of solo Bach, the Andante. Let me show you something real quick. So I played the Andante and the Allegro, so the last 2 movements of this piece for auditions, and yeah, that's how hard it is. The Allegro, the last movement, isn't too terribly difficult, but for the Andante, what makes it really hard is those 2 musical voices. And because the bottom one, you're like pulsing on one note, you have to like kind of pulse with your bow, but then at the same time, you want the top musical line to sound smooth. So that was incredibly difficult, at least for me. The hardest solo Bach, in my opinion, is Sonata number 3 in C major. And again, it's because of the fugue. The first movement is slow and lyrical. I have not played it, and I have also not played this fugue. 1, it's the longest. 2, it's the hardest. I've already said I do not do well with the fugues, so I chose to spend my time on the chaconne. This fugue also, it sounds like London Bridge is falling down at the beginning. The last 2 movements of this piece are not too terribly difficult, but really for me it's the fugue that makes this one take the top ranking. So what do you think? Do you agree with my rankings? Do you disagree with my rankings? What do you think is the hardest movement of solo Bach? What do you think the easiest movement of solo Bach? And what's your favorite solo Bach? Like I said, I love the chaconne, but besides the chaconne, mine is definitely the andante. Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure you subscribe before you go.